I'm Rian Maelzer in Chiang Rai province in northern Thailand near the border with Myanmar, and what you can see behind me is the entrance to the cave where the 12 boys and their football coach have been trapped for the past 11 days. You probably see rescue workers behind me, you see streams of Thai military. There are also many foreign people here helping out with the search efforts from China, Australia, the US, Japan, the UK, and of course it was UK divers, a pair of UK divers who actually went approximately 5 kilometers into the cave and discovered the two boys on Monday evening. And this multinational effort is really something to behold. Here at this camp where we are, it's a muddy mess, it has to be said, and it's obviously a buzz with activity of all kinds, but it's a pretty remarkable coordinated effort among the searchers from the various nations. Now, what we're hearing is a lot of conflicting reports about when the boys will be brought out of the cave and how the boys will be brought out of the cave. Essentially, finding the boys was just the first step. Of course, it was critically important for the families. There's this huge sense of relief to know the boys are safe. And we had grave doubts, all of us, of course, that they were after 10 days, 10 long days as it was then. But there they are perched on this sort of small sloping ledge. We saw fresh footage of them from the Thai Navy SEAL divers that shows them wrapped up in space blankets, and they've been given basic nutrition, sort of nutritional gels to give them energy, and they've got doctors and nurses with them. But now the question is how to get them out from there. And I spoke with a US military person who's here helping with the search, and she says all the searchers from all the different countries are coordinating, racking their brains, what's the best plan? And some of the ideas being floated are to give them basic skills in scuba diving, and then to have 2 divers accompany each child out. But from what we understand, many of these kids, if not all the kids, they can't swim. And then you're talking about extraordinarily difficult, murky conditions with dark brown water and jagged edges of the rock face, and extremely difficult even for the experts, let alone kids. The other alternative that they're talking about is to wait for the floodwaters to recede. Now, they're trying to pump the water out. I mean, down the hill here to my left, they have this area where the water's just gushing from the ground like an endless fountain, and the water's streaming down the side of the road like a small river basically. But you have to recall that this huge amounts of water, huge volume of water in the cave itself. I was told by a local that it acts as sort of water catchment area, and it's very rarely dry at all. So pumping the water out of the cave is a monumental task. At the same time, they've been discussing trying to find alternative ways into the cave, but they've been discussing that since day one, and so far they haven't found any alternative route in. Now, the conflicting information that we're getting is that we're hearing from the Thai Navy SEAL commander. He told us last evening, there's no rush, let's not panic, let's find the best way to get these kids out safely. That's pretty much what we're hearing from the experts, the divers, and the cave rescue specialists as well. But then the Thai Interior Minister seemed to suggest there was a big rush. There's a danger if it starts raining again, the floodwaters will rise, they might lose their air pocket, it will become even more difficult to get them out. He didn't seem keen to wait until the rains subside and the rainy season ends and to be in for the long haul. So there seemed to be a sense of urgency from the government. Obviously they're going to be under pressure from the parents, but the parents have to realize the most important thing is to get their kids out safely. One thing to find them, but if you don't get them out safely, there's no purpose. So I'll give you a very short little view here of this makeshift camp that's been set up. As I mentioned, this is the entrance to the cave. This is as close as we're allowed to get. We're about 100 meters away. We see a lot of military personnel and rescuers going in and out all the time, but we don't get any closer. All the footage we're getting is from the Thai Navy SEALs. Over to the side there, it might be a bit blocked by the cameraman, I'm afraid. You see some generators. There's a lot of oxygen tanks everywhere on standby for the divers. And then further to the side here, you've got a big genset generator, and I saw them hooking up cables today. They need all these cables to be running the pumps and providing lighting to them down there. And at the same time, we're hearing that they're planning to run in a phone line. Actually, it would be a cable line all the way to where the kids are basically seeking sanctuary, and that it would be a cable so that it would carry an internet signal and they would actually be able to do video calls to their parents. So this is something that obviously would bring some kind of relief to their parents. Now we'll turn the other direction, and you see the cameraman. There's hundreds and hundreds of reporters here. I was told at one point there's something like 600 Thai reporters and journalists here alone. They pretty much camp out here overnight, but there's a large number of foreign journalists that are basically set here, waiting for anyone to come out of the cave, although it doesn't seem to be imminent. There's caves, there's tents providing first aid and so on. And in this direction, yeah, there's people cooking. Volunteers have come out in force to try to help provide for the rescuers, for the journalists even. I dropped a battery in the mud a minute ago. Within seconds, somebody came over and gave me a pack of batteries. And when we're clambering up the hill with our gear, the military stopped to let us on board their military vehicle to bring us out. So there's that kind of spirit here that you see. And it's awfully muddy. I think if the cameraman tilts down, you'll get an idea of just what the conditions are in places here. Certainly, gum boots or Wellington boots are the preferred item of footwear. And they've done what they can, bringing large amounts of gravel and depositing it in places to make it drier. But this is where I've been sitting and writing and editing my stories, sitting in the mud, trying not to drop any important equipment into the mud. And yeah, you'll also see, I think if you turn this way, although it's through the fence, you know, it's a tent encampment, and we're effectively in the middle of the jungle in this very scenic part of northern Thailand. But at this time of year, this is clearly the off-season for tourism because it's the rainy season, although we've had no rain for the past few days or very little rain. So the resort that we're staying in as a sort of act of solidarity with everyone that's trying to improve, trying to do the search here. They're offering rooms at a fraction of the normal rate and doing what they can, doing their part as well, providing food for the volunteers, the rescuers, and so on. So there's a huge community cooperation that's going on here. It's the local community, it's the Thai national community, it's the international community as well. So I should tell you that I'm keen to take any questions that you might have. Not positive I'll be able to answer them, given the conflicting information that we're getting, and I'm not a technical specialist, but if you send questions via our Facebook page, I will try to get to your questions, try to answer them. I'm not really sure what else I can show you here. Just head back toward the entrance of the cave, and basically we're in standby mode here. We're just waiting for the word that the kids will be brought out. There were rumors last night that they would be brought out imminently within 2 or 3 hours, but then we heard the head of the Thai Navy SEALs saying, on the contrary, there's no rush. There's absolutely no rush. He said, you know, they've got essential medical supplies. They're in good condition. They're going to put the phone line through to them. There's absolutely no rush. The critical thing here is to make sure that the kids come out safe and sound, and not to worry about how quickly they come out at this stage. Although, of course, the situation that they're in, you know, it's not a comfortable situation no matter which way you look at it. Even with the visits by the Navy SEALs, by the divers, going in there to entertain them, to provide them some nutrition, they're just perched on this dark, dank ledge basically above the floodwaters. 11 days seems long enough for that, but they've been talking about it could be weeks before the floodwaters subsided. Now I'll have a look at Facebook if there's any questions coming in here. Any questions from anyone out there? Well, you know, I'm being asked how far I am from the cave, and from my understanding, it's only about 100 meters beyond where we are here at this gate. It's just up there. But of course, how far am I from the kids would be a better question, and I'm about 5 kilometers away from the kids because they're deep, deep within this cave system, which runs approximately 9 kilometers and has many branches as well. It's not as if it's just a straight line. And I hear, from what I heard from the British divers, that they were extremely lucky to find the kids, that they had run out of the cable that they were following, and so they emerged from the water, and there were the kids right ahead of them. So, other questions? Sorry, I can't see that one properly. Just flipping through some questions here. Right. There was a question here. I said I'm not a technical specialist, but I think I can probably answer this one. Someone asked whether it's possible to sort of put a tube of some sort, like I suppose a tunnel within the tunnel that the kids could then come through. No, I'm sure that is definitely not possible. The terrain in there is extremely uneven, jagged rocks, narrow passageways. It seems like the only alternatives are they swim part way with scuba gear on, or they wait until the water subsides and they walk out effectively. but there's no possibility, I think, of any kind of tube or anything make it easier for them to get out of there. And scuba is, you know, they're looking for these full face masks so they don't have to use the mouthpieces. That might be somewhat easier for them to use, but still, for inexperienced kids, for kids that don't swim, have your face in this murky water. I mean, you see the conditions here outside. I'm sure it's much the same in there, with tons of this brown mud and silt clogging up the water and making visibility almost zero in there. So more questions. And right now you can see probably from my face that the sun is beating down on me here. So it's supposed to be rainy season, but the weather has been in the rescuers' favor for the past several days, and obviously they pray it's going to stay that way. Any more questions? So I think the question is there about the distance to the kids, or the position that the kids are in. As mentioned, it's about 5 kilometers inside the cave. An extraordinary distance when you consider that it took them close to 10 days for these rescuers to hack their way through in places and widen channels and swim in. And it was only when the water subsided enough that they could sort of use a mixture between going in on foot and then diving in that they were able to reach these kids. But just imagine that they're 5 kilometers in. From what I understand, maybe they hadn't hiked all the way 5 meters in, but as the water rose, maybe they were looking for higher ground. Now, we were told at one point that they'd hoped to find them at this place called Pattaya Rock, I believe it is. It's named after the famous beach here in Thailand, or they call it Pattaya Beach actually, but it's a rock inside the cave and it's high ground, and they expected they might find the kids there. That was their greatest hope. When they got there, they found the rock was underwater. So that was a huge blow, and it would have been a huge concern that the kids hadn't managed to reach safety. But about 1 kilometer beyond that, from my understanding, they did in fact find this sort of slope. That's all you can call it. It's just a small slope, and the kids are all huddled together there. I hear that their coach used to be a monk, which is quite common in this part of the world, that you become a monk for a couple of years at a time, and he'd studied meditation, and he tried to get the kids to meditate with him, basically, to keep them calm. So there's a good sense of camaraderie among them. They seemed in good spirits. From the sound bites that we heard when the British divers first found them, they were saying, oh, okay, see you tomorrow. It was kind of heartbreaking to hear when they realized they weren't being rescued at that time, but they seem in good spirits. The video that we've seen, the latest video from the Thai Navy SEALs of them with the doctors and the rescuers, look promising. They look in good condition. Obviously, this is a tough ordeal for them, no doubt, but they seem to be doing the best that we could possibly hope under the circumstances. So now it's a matter of the international rescuers, the multinational rescue team, coming up with the best possible way to get these kids out safely. And the critical thing is safely. There's no point rushing and having kids injured or even killed when you found them alive. Now the critical thing is to get them out safely. And so I'm wrapping up here in Chiang Rai province, outside the mouth of the cave, where the kids are still trapped along with their coach. And we hope to return to you in the hours or days ahead with good news and images of the children being brought out from behind me. Thanks very much for joining me.